Welcome back to another live coding session with RabbitWerks JavaScript. Tonight is episode 10 of the Filtrify photo series, and we're going to wrap up our download logic and figure out what we did wrong last week and pull it all together. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of RabbitWerks JavaScript live coding. And tonight we got the audio back to normal, and I apologize about last week's audio. I was recording both sources from my webcam and the headset, so everything was all goofed up, but got it all figured out now and should be sounding awesome. Tonight we're listening to, again, the RabbitWerks Code Beats Spotify playlist. Go ahead and check out the link in the description if you want to get on that and get some good vibes going. I just added some new tracks to it, so cool. Thanks again for tuning in. Say hi to everybody in the chat, and it looks like tonight we have Joshua is hanging out in the chat with us, and he's gonna be helping us if we ever get stuck. So thanks for hanging out with us again, Joshua, and you rock. So without further ado, I think this is a good time to get going. Alright, so let's look at our work log. And basically what we got to last week was basically we got our download function working, but on my end, for whatever reason, it was downloading just a blank canvas. So let's figure out if we can figure out what's going on with that. So let's go to Cloudinary and just grab our image that we've been using. You can use any image. It really depends on where the asset is hosted, if it's going to really allow you to load it into this app or not, depending on cores. So I'm just going to grab, let's see, where should we use it? If I go to my media library here, and JavaScript 30, the West Boss course. It's just where I was holding some images. Let's look in this one. Alright, neat. So this is the one we were using last time, and just for consistency, we're gonna pull this guy up again. This track is always so quiet. I don't know why. Okay, copy the URL, and we're just gonna bring it into our app and see what we got. Nice. Okay, so we click download, and we get filtered image, but for some reason there's nothing there. So let's take a look at our code and see if we can figure out what's going on. So let's open up our download logic folder or component and see what's going on in that. So in our save image folder, we have the download button component where we're running our download image. Alright, so it looks like right away I'm seeing where we goofed up, and if we look, so throughout this whole thing we're sending in image width and height data we're creating a new image object or a new image element, and we're assigning the height and the width and the height of it, but how we get that format is with the suffix attached, the pixel suffix attached to it. So what we want to do is we're using this substring method to remove the last two characters, but if we look on this instance of that function, I'm not removing the right amount of characters at the end. So you can notice that it says this.image.height.length -2 or this.image.width.length -2, and you notice right here it doesn't say that, or let's see, is there anywhere else that says that? I think right here as well. So in the context draw image function, and then in the image to download or the new image creation or whatever. So let's add that in there and see if that gives us what we want. So right now, just to demonstrate, what we are getting as a value is something like 650 pixels, and this px at the end of it is what's breaking the canvas essentially. So we have to remove that pixel, and that's exactly what the substring method does. And it's going to just run that on it, and it's going to turn it into just that, because it removes the last two of the array, or of the string. So alright, so we have that one in there, and then let's look and see if we add it to this context.drawImage function, if that's going to give us what we want as well. Alright, so just to recap, we have an image that we are passing an image to with the height and the width, setting the cross origin to anonymous to help with cores, and then we wrote a function that gets ran when the image loads. So on load, we create a canvas, assign the width and the height to the height of the image and the width in the image. Next thing we do is we apply our filters to our context filter object, and we draw our image that we created up here into that context, the canvas context. Alright, and then the next thing we do is we take all that information, our filters and our image, and we take all that data in the canvas and we convert it to a blob. And this blob is just a giant thing full of all of our data, and we turn that blob into a data URI essentially. So what we do is we create a new link, a new A tag, we assign the blob to the image, the object URL of that link, and we basically turn it into a download link, an instant download link. So we set the attribute on the link as href to the URL, which is our data object containing the blob. The next thing we do is set an attribute on it for download, and then the name of the file that we're downloading it as, which we will set up to be dynamic later on, and then we just simulate a click. That's all we have to do. And that gives us our functionality where we download the image, all that good stuff, and now with the correct code in our function, we should see an image in there. Excellent. Cool. So let's see really quick if this just adjusts with the color as well, the canvas filters. Toledo. Alright, let's download it one more time. Let's see what happens. And looks like our filters are applied and it downloads correctly. Cool. Sweet. So we do have it up and running. Alright, let's figure that out so we can go in here and check that bad boy off. And looks like we finally have all this stuff done. Sweet. Alright, so what do we want to do really quick? Well, we want to make sure, if you noticed that, oops, excuse me. Okay, so if we notice that if we pull up this image really quick, this isn't the right one I wanted to pull up. But okay, let's just download this one more time just for the heck of it and open it up. You notice that this is, you know, only about 600 pixels wide, and if I were to zoom in, that's only, you know, it's not very big. It's not the original size, and that's because right now what we have it set as is we're getting this image size data from our store, but we're setting it based on the size of this image, and that's not, or so when we load the image in at first, it's gonna take, where it's getting that value from is like if we were to load this image in now right here, and it should give us an even smaller picture. So it's loading in the initial value of this display image into our Vuex store, and that's not what we want to do. We want the original or the intrinsic value of the width and the height. Cool. So let's take a look at that and see if that's even smaller. So yeah, you can see right here it's even smaller. So that's not the behavior that we necessarily want. But let's go and get that fixed right now. And it looks like we have a couple of people joining us in the chat. So let's say hi to Andrew Lane. Hey Andrew, and then Sati, how you doing, man? I'm glad you were able to tune in for a live stream. I'm super stoked that you're here. Thank you so much. And we're just working on this neat little app that we've been working on for the past 10 weeks now. It's just a simple photo filtering app that you can just go through and do all that fun stuff with it. And cool. All right, so back to where we were at. We're gonna update this getImageSize function. So let's take a look at that really quick. And that is in our image loader component, I believe. No, that's gonna be in our display component. All right, so go in the display folder and then in our display image. Yeah, so this getImageSize, this is not what we're gonna want to do, and I believe we can just let's see, do we want to take that out completely or just try and bring it over to the other component? I'm gonna copy it and comment it out for now, and make sure I get this last bracket right there. Yeah, we fixed the bug. We got it going, and everything seems to be working pretty well now. So we're gonna keep going on it. And okay, so let's see. Inside of our image loader component, set image source store. Okay, so if you look in, we're setting the image source in this component. We can probably also get the info for the width and the height. Sorry, I'm just processing this, thinking about the best way to do it. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by writing a temporary method instead of just running this Vuex action right away, so I can get a little bit more information, see where we can pull it out from. And this download image, so this set image size store is going to be, let's look at it right here, and we're going to use the same action and mutation for the time being, and we'll probably go through and refactor this in our next episode when we do the cleanup and the refactoring and whatnot. So for now, we'll just probably use the existing actions and the mutations that we have. And so that being said, let's see. Let's write a new action or new method. Get image size. And that's going to take in the event.
Oh, fuckers.
So I think what we want to do is it looks like Joshua in this chat has a suggestion. He was saying best bet would be to load the image in the get image size similarly to in the download image, and then just pull the width and the height. Yeah, so what I was just thinking is we'll just create kind of like we were doing in the download function where we create a new image element. We'll probably do the same thing in this, and then just take those values and store them in Vuex. So let's see. So let's change this out really quick. We can just say all right, let's see.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just thinking more on this. event.target.value, and if we say, all right, let's just start by console logging the event, the $sign event. We can just take this parameter, actually, this part over here, and just bring it down into this function for the time being. And let's see, let's pull up our image. Uh-oh, it's broken. We might actually need this in here for the time being. Let's see if that had anything to do with it. Uh-oh. Interesting. Wonder where our image went. Oh, okay. Alright, so it is in there, I think, somewhere, maybe. But we're screwing everything up. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, console.log. Alright, cool. So that is what we want. And what we'll say now is, if we say const loaded image equals document that create element. I think we want to do it like this so we could pass the actual element, the image, into, or get like the height and the width, right? Versus just making an image object. We'll try it like this, and if this doesn't work, we can try doing it the other way. So we want to create an image just like that. And then, so we'll say, next we want to set up the loaded image dot onload function. That will be just an arrow function that runs, and in here is where we will take the width and the height from our image and then store it in the Vuex store. Okay, so before we do that, we'll just say, we want to say loaded image dot source equals this $event dot target dot value, just like that, so that when we set the source, oops, not a double $. So when we set the source based on the event value, this function will run. So just like how we had it set up in this guy for right here. So all this canvas logic and stuff runs when the image loads on this component. Similarly, in this component, we want to save the width and the height of the image when this image gets finished loading. So let's just say, let's see what we got. Console.log loaded image dot width, and then let's just say height for this one. And actually, instead of two console log statements, I'm going to take it out, double click it properly, not delete all of my code. Alright, loaded image.width and loaded image.height. Let's see if that gives us what we want. Pull up our image link, drop it in there, and look at that. Alright, so 5,184 and then 3,456. And let's look at our image on Cloudinary. If we look right here, I don't know if you can see that very well, but right here, 5,000. It's the same size. So that's our intrinsic value for our width and our height for our photo. It's a lot different than what we have displaying. Obviously, we would never be able to fit a 5,000 by 3,500 pixel image in our screen unless we had a ginormous screen, which most of us don't. So, especially if we're watching this on a phone. Kudos to the mobile app or the mobile device viewers on that. Cool. Alright, so now that we have our image data properly loading, let's go ahead and set that in our Vuex store. So we do want to set the image source. We want to run that. We also want to run the other action that we have, which is, if we look in our Vuex store, it is the set image size. So we want that as well. And what we'll do is we'll refactor it out, so we just do both of these actions and mutations in one function. What we could actually do is write an action. Actually, I think we might demonstrate that really quick. If we wanted to call both mutations with one action, we're totally able to do that. So maybe we can demonstrate that. But first, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's get that other action in here. So it is set image size and then underscore capital store, just like that. Nice. All right, so we can run and get rid of. Let's get rid of this, and we can get rid of that, since we know that those are working properly. Next thing, all right, so let's run our action. So we haven't worked with these in a couple episodes per se. So just a quick refresher, when we import or when we're mapping our actions to our methods object on this Vue instance, and we have it in a string like this, that means essentially it's like if we were to have it just as a primary function, just like that. So we can call it just as it were a regular method on our Vuex or our Vue instance, which is really helpful. And it looks like I was reading the documentation for the roadmap for Vue 4.0, and it looks like the ideal goal for them is that they're going to try and get rid of or combine actions and mutations into one thing, so because it'll like completely cut down on a ton of duplicate code, a ton of boilerplate code for doing kind of the same stuff, just running two different parts of functions on the Vuex store. So I'm excited for that. That's gonna be cool. But for now, we still have to do an action and then a mutation. So next thing we want to do is let's get that called. So we can call our Vuex action by just saying this dot set. Alright, so let's set the source first. So we'll say image source, just like that, and then store. So it's the name that we are passing in right here. And we can just invoke it like that. And what we want to do is say we pass this event object, the target value, into this as well. Alright, so we set the image source from the info that we're pulling from this box right here, right? Next thing we want to do is we're going to set the values of the width and the height that we have. So let's see, if we look at our display image component, okay, so it looks like we create a new payload object that we assign the width and the height in here, and then just pass that in as the payload. So we're going to do the same thing in this component. because that's best practice as far as I know. So we'll just say const payload, and then it's going to be equal to an object, and in there we'll have our width property, and it will say loaded image dot width, just like we were console logging it. And then the next, whoops, we need to make sure we spell width properly, otherwise we will have errors, or just nothing will load. So either way. And then the next property we want on there is height, and that it will be loaded image dot height, just like that. Neat. All right, so once we have that object created in this function, we can go ahead and run our other Vuex action, set image size action. So we'll say that this dot set image size, right, underscore store, and then we just pass in the payload like that. And that should be all there is to it. So both things will be handled in this getImageSize function. When we refactor this out, we'll probably rename this a little bit to be a little bit more explicit about what it's doing, because it'll be setting the image source and the size. So, neato Toledo. And okay, so let's go ahead and give it a run and see if that gives us what we want. So before we load our image, our image URL in there, let's just pull up the Vue Dev Tools and see what we're gonna get inside of our store. Okay. So, image, we can see right here in our state inspector. You can look at the image property right now. We don't have anything in there. These bottom three properties should populate when we load this image in here though. So let's go ahead and see if that works the way we want it to. And I'm going to bring that in just like that. Oh, you know what we need to do before is we need to delete this function. Because that's overriding what we just did. And we don't want that in there. Oops. Should we delete just the right amount of stuff? And we can actually just get rid of this first entry of the array as well, since we won't be using that method anymore from our Vuex store on this component. All right, let's try that again. Moment of truth, and we can click and load in our thing. Open up our image deal, and look at that. Cool. And you notice that it doesn't have it's actually a number, it's not a string anymore. So very important, because we need it to be just a number without that pixel suffix at the end, because that's how stuff can break. So cool. Now, if we were to, and it loads in our app again automatically, because we're setting all of our properties, resetting them, and nothing is broken anymore. So neato Toledo. And let's download it and see if it's the right size. So let's, I don't know, maybe make a little bit of adjustments to it just for the sake of it. This image isn't the best for it, because obviously it's either really black or really white, so maybe choose a different one, but it's alright for now. Let's go ahead and download it, and oh, we're getting an error. And it says this .image.width.substring is not a function. Okay, so something's going on. Let's go into this guy. Not the image loader download button. What is that on? So line 22 here, it's saying that something's not working properly. Oh, you know what? Because Joshua was just saying in the chat actually that since we are passing in just the numbers without the pixel value or pixel suffix, it's not a string anymore. So all this stuff that we were using to debug the canvas with this substring method can actually get removed now, because we only have numbers to work with. And we don't need to remove the last two digits, characters, whatever you want to say. So we need to do that because that's what's running or wrecking our, or throwing an error right now, because you see that this number is not a string, so it doesn't have a substring method on it. So that's why we're getting this error right here. Let's go through and clean that up really quick. So we can actually just delete everything that has the substring method on it. Alright, so like I said last week, in VS Code, if you're on a Windows, I'm not sure about Mac, it's just hold the Alt key and you can click and get multiple cursors. So right here, and another one right there, and you get a cursor, and you get a cursor, and everybody gets a cursor. I think that's it. I think we just have the 6 of them. So let's go ahead and you see how everything deletes, and it's already getting easier to read. That's a lot of characters getting deleted. Neat. That's awesome. And just like that, one more. Some of them, one more. Alright, just fix the commas that we deleted on some of them by accident. And with that running, we're missing a semicolon right here. Now, that should be everything that we need. And it looks a lot more clean, by the way, too. So good call on that. And it looks like on the Mac, it is the command key to get the multiple cursors. So command click to get the multiple cursors if you're using a Mac. All right, pull up this image one more time. And nope, we're still calling this. So we're getting this error from this dot get image size is not a function, so it's still trying to call this from our old component, from our display image component. Right. Right here. So we don't need this watch property anymore either, because it was just watching for this image element to for the source to change, and when it changed, it calculated the image size and then stored that info into our Vuex store. So we don't need this watch property at all. So that's going to be really nice for performance as well. You can just delete that whole thing, and we could probably get rid of our ref on there as well, since I think we were just using that as a reference for the watch property. So let's go ahead and delete that as well. And give it a refresh and see where we are at with everything. And no image. Uh-oh. Alright, let's see what is going on this time. We have that. Where is our image? Alright, let's take a look. Display image. It's got the source on there, but it doesn't have the width and the height. Let's see here. We don't need this width and height on this either. But something's going on. We don't have our image in there anymore. Let's see what happened. All right. So let's head back. Okay, so I think I made a mistake on that actually. I'm gonna bring my what we just deleted out of there, the watch property, and just look through it one more time. Okay, so in this, it's setting the image source. Okay, so there's a part of this that we can take out. So we're going to keep this watch property in there, but we want to take out this set timeout right here because we don't need to call this getImageSize function anymore. So we'll leave the watch property in there, and that's just going to be used to set the image source on the image element that's in this component, so right up here. And I'm sure there's another way we can do it at this point for all that, but since this is working, it's going to be just fine for us. Let's fix that a little bit. We can actually get rid of this data property, I believe, since that doesn't even get changed anymore. We haven't really used that at all. And let me just look through here. So we have the image source that is what we use to set the image source on here. Yeah. And we can get rid of this console log. Let's get rid of all the console logs in this component since we're in it and working. Neat. Okay, so basically when this image source changes, we set the new source on the image that we are targeting with the ref as the value that's being pulled in from our Vuex store as the image source. So lots of words, but let's see if it works. And let's pull that in. And we have our image back. Sweet. And let's see if the rest of it works. So let's try and download it and see what happens now. Nothing. No download. Is it giving us? Oh, it is downloading. It's just taking a minute because it's a giant file. Load handler took 417 milliseconds. Interesting. I wonder. Let's see. That must be a Vue thing. A warning. Saying that. Oh, maybe it's just saying that this load. It is saying that this load onload function took that long to run or whatever. That's fine. It might be a little slow, but that's because this image is ginormous. So let's just take a look at it and see. All right, cool. We have an image, and if we zoom in. All right, so ultra high res photos. Neat. Cool. All right, so that's that. And let's look at our work log, and we have this all finished. Cool. All right. So now that we have that finished up, let us go ahead and let's commit that code. All right. So we'll say git add all, and it's gonna add our download button, our image loader component, and our display image. So we can say git commit -m. I'll just type in a quick note update. Factored get image size to loader component. Cleaned up code and pulled correct info with height. Sorry, I'm leaving really long notes right now. It's probably not the best practice for a live stream, but that's okay. And what was the last thing that we did? We removed substring functions. All right, neat. Git push, and that's going to push it up to GitHub onto that branch. And then, so the next thing we want to do is, now that this feature is more or less complete, we could merge it. Merge it into master, and we could start a new branch and start working on that for the reset filters and the rest of the stuff. So let's walk through that really quick. And we talked a little bit about merging branches, not last week, but the week before, if I remember correctly. So let's just give a quick little run through. So right now we are on this download image branch, and we say get checkout, or if we just say get branch, we can see all the branches. So we're on this download branch, and we want to merge everything that we did on this branch into our master branch. So the way we go about doing that is we go to master, or sorry, get checkout master. And okay, you can see that everything kind of changes a lot, and that's because it's loading a different version of our project, essentially, because it's a different branch. Each branch is kind of like its own version of the project that you're working on, hence what version control is. So alright, now that we're on our master branch, we can merge our download image into our master branch, and then we won't worry too much about like the refactoring and all that stuff right now, because we will just go back and we'll create a new branch for refactoring and cleaning up our code, and just merge that when that's all done, instead of trying to worry about doing that all right now. So with us being on our master branch, we can say get merge, and then the name of the branch that we want to merge. So it's going to be download image, just like that. And if you hit enter, there's no merge conflicts, which we work hard at RabbitWerks JavaScript to prevent. But no, if there's no merge conflicts, then it'll just, everything will go hunky-dory and you won't even have to do anything. If we do run into a merge conflict, I'll walk you through on how to do that, but it's pretty simple. So cool. Now let's take a look, and you can see that everything is there from our download image branch. And if we say get branch, you can see that our download image branch is still there and accessible, but we just pretty much took all of the work we did and updated the master branch with that current work. So a bit of a little walkthrough on merging again. Neat. Alright, so let's go to the next thing. What do we want to do? The next thing is we're going to work on these reset filters button, and then I think what we could do is set up the double click reset individual filters. So say if like this brightness filter was all the way up at 150, we could just double click anywhere on the slider and it'll bring it back to its default resting position of 150, which would be pretty neat. And then we can also just have a reset button right here probably, and then we'll go from there. So what we can do is let's create a new branch. So we can say get checkout -b, and that's the shorthand for basically creating and checking out a new branch all in one. So get checkout -b, and we will call it filter, or let's just actually call it reset filters. And usually with when you're working on a larger project, you want to have some sort of naming convention going on. Excuse me. When you're writing your branches. So for instance, like the Coding Garden app that we're working on. Shouts to everybody in the chat working on the Coding Garden app. But for that, we prefix all of our different branches with the CA dash and then a number associated to the task that that branch is supposed to be worked on for. So it kind of keeps track of everything, and it's not just a bunch of random names that don't have a rhyme or reason. There's somewhat of an order to it. So always a good idea to think ahead about your naming conventions, especially for stuff like branches and version controlling and whatnot, just so you can keep track of everything and you don't shoot yourself in the foot down the road. So get checkout -b, reset filters, hit that, and so that switches us to a new branch. You can see that it says right here, and let's get to work. All right, 1 second. Okay, so I gotta switch this mapping. All right, what do we want to do first? All right, so I think the first thing to do is to get this reset filters, like all of the filters done. So say if we had all of this stuff edited or changed in some way, shape, or form, we could just push the reset filters button and it'll completely reset these all to their default resting positions. I think that'll probably be what we'll start with, and I'm thinking we'll just put it right here. So let's get that started. All right, we can close out these couple of components that we don't need at the moment, and inside of our filter panel right here we can pull up the filter panel component. All right, and so right here you can see this is where our heading is for this filters header, and I think instead of having that in there, we're gonna create another component and have it for the button. Alright, so to do that, we will just wrap these two guys. So we'll wrap these two guys in a div and use Flexbox to space them out. Alright, so first things first, let's create a new div, and we will say it will be called the filter dash panel. Let's see, panel. And Josh was suggesting that an icon would look nice. That would be a good idea. We could use an icon. That would work well. I'm sorry, let's see what we want to do. We can call it the header group. Alright, move this H2 up in there and fix the indentation. Alright, sorry, just checking on my bandwidth. Looked like we lost some connectivity for a second, but looks like we're all good. Okay, so we have this this wrapper around it now, and let's just inspect it and see. It does take up the full width, just like that. And right here we're gonna place a div, or we can actually, we'll just do a span. So we'll say span dot filter dash reset icon. And we'll prefix or modify it with the outer, because this will be the outer, I believe. And let's see if we can let's see if we can find a nice icon to use. We'll just pull in and probably just pull in an SVG. So reset SVG. Let's see what we can find for that. Just like these neat things. Icon. That's pretty neat. The noun project. Pull this up. My internet connection is starting to slow down on me a little bit, unfortunately. You can use this reset image, reset icon. It's kind of neat. If it wants to load. Of course it's not going to load. Slow. Yeah, the noun project, it's awesome. It's got a ton of creator designed icons, and it's all free. and all they do is just ask for like attribution to the Creative Commons or whatnot. So that's not the one we were looking at. It was this one was the one we were looking at. I do have an account, but I don't remember what it is. Let's see if I can log into this really quick, just for the heck of it. Give me 1 second, friends. Alright, cool. So, looks like it was able to log in properly. Oops. Alright, stop pulling that open like that. Alright, cool. So we'll just do the basic download. Looks like you can get, they have a pro option that you can do royalty-free license for like $3, looks like. But download only in black, and let's see what that gives us. We're going to be using it on a website. And the attribution text. So it says use the embedded attribution only if the icon is larger than 100 pixels. Copy the attribution text below and include it in the bibliography or image caption. So we don't have to worry about it since it won't be bigger than 100 pixels, but let's just use this and see what's going on. Alright, so we'll pull the SVG down. Alright, navigate to that really quick. Should be downloads folder. What did it call? Down reset. Right here. So it looks like, yeah, it was on there a couple of times. So we will copy this, cut it out of this downloads folder, and bring it into our assets folder. So we can reveal and explore, bring it into assets, and let's just do a new folder in here. Or SVG, and then we can just save that in there, just like that. And with that in there like that, we should be able to just pull that in straight away. Okay, so when we were working with SVGs, so if anybody was watching the Tasker app series, you know that we were having a hard time at first working with the SVGs and events in Vue, and for whatever reason we were storing the event on the SVG tag. It wasn't running. It would only run if we had it on the path or the outer or the like parent wrapper component or parent element. So whatever reason that is happening, and just a caveat to keep in mind, if you're working with SVGs and your events aren't firing, it's probably because the event is written on the wrong tag, the wrong element. So we'll look at it a little bit closer in this situation, and or now we can just say, we'll just put it in an image, and then what I will do is we'll turn it into its own component so we can load it in and customize the color a little bit. Alright, so let's open up our app. We come in here and just say image. The source will be in our assets folder, and then in our SVG folder, and then in that, and then the alt will be the credit. We can just pop that in the alt tag right there. And if we take a look at that, that is a little bit too big. I don't want the alt text like that though. It shouldn't be. that part of the SVG? Weird. Okay, let's try and bring this size down ever so slightly. And we need to put a class on this really quick. Class equals filter reset. SVG. And now I want to target this and see if we can change the size on it. Let's see if we change the width to 2 rem. And the height to 2 rem. Okay, so yeah, it looks like that is part of the SVG itself, so we'll have a little bit of cleaning up to do because we want to include right here, so we could just take this out, all this text right here, since we have the the credit in the alt tag. We're not going to worry about having this text in there because that does not look nice. Should be all we need. Okay, and let's bump up the size on this just slightly. And we won't need to change the color at all since we're using black font. Well, we might need to change it just slightly because right now this is pure black and it looks a little bit different than the color of the font, so it's throwing off a little bit, but we'll see. So I just want to change this to 2.5 rem on the width and the height, just to give it a little bit bigger of a size. And neat. Okay, so let's get this spaced out properly. And to do that, we just need to add in our Flexbox utility library classes that we've been using, and it's just going to be the Flexbox dash space between. And that'll change it to flex and set the items to, oh, not that one. Sorry, it's not in this span. It's take this class that we just wrote and we're going to put it in this outer div, this filter panel header group wrapper, and that will change it to Flexbox and flex1, so it'll take up all the space, and it'll also set the items to space between. So we'll see all that happen right now, just like that. Cool. And we got some spacing issues coming up, right, with this, all this stuff. We'll figure out what's going on with that. Why is that getting so high? Let's see, why is that getting such a... let's see, I think we need to change the direction. So if we say let's flex row, something's goofing this up. Why is this getting such a strange? Why is that reacting so strangely, I wonder? Let's see what is going on with this. I need to see like the full thing. Oh. Flexbox space between. So Joshua in the chat was saying that it has flex 1, so it's taking space that it doesn't need. That could be what's going on. Let me just double check our classes really quick. Okay, so if we say let's delete that really quick and see. Alright, so when we have this class on there, just the Flexbox one, it's working. And so I think Joshua was right, the Flex 1 property is goofing it up a little bit. So let's see if we can so we don't have classes for that specifically. But we could totally add some more. Let's see. What do we want? We want just the display flex and the justify content. Or we could just say so I think I might rename these. When I rewrite this library, we'll have to rename this. I was thinking of a good name. Oh, that's true. We could do just a scoped property on it. That's true. Let's probably go that route for now, and then we can look at adding more Flexbox classes to the utility library after the project and not on a live stream. So if Joshua was saying that we can just throw the class on there to just scope it and style it just right here. And I like that idea. So we could just say dot filter header dash header group, just like that. And then if we were to say justify content space between, just like that. There we go. Poof. Nice call. Good call. RabbitWerks CSS framework. I love it. Alright, cool. Good call on that. And the flex was screwing us up, so good thing to note. I actually do want to take a note of that in here, so right, classes for justify content without flex prop, or no, I guess I call it the rules in this case since it's CSL. That's alright, cool. That's in there now. We have this sweet little SVG, and we're definitely gonna have to change the color of it just ever so slightly because this pure black is really throwing me off. Might need to like align it a little bit too, because you see how it's sitting up there. We want to kind of center it a little bit because it's sitting higher a little bit. Anyways, okay, so we're about a little past an hour in. I'm gonna take a quick stretch break, quick blood moving break, and don't go anywhere. Make sure to stay locked with the RabbitWerks code beats. I'll be back in just a few. Thank you so much for tuning in to RabbitWerks live coding, and stay awesome. We'll be back in just a few.
What this is saying, then, is that just as you don't know how you manage to be conscious, how you manage to grow and shape this body of yours, that doesn't mean to say that you're not doing it. Equally, you don't know how the universe shines the stars, constellates the constellation, and galactifies the galaxies. You don't know. But that doesn't mean to say that you aren't doing it in just the same way as you're breathing without knowing how you breathe.
Alright, and we are back. Thank you for your patience. And before the break, we were just getting this SVG up and loaded in there properly. So I think what we want to do is this whole thing right here, we want in its own component. And let me just take a look. I want to see this color really quick and see if we can adjust that manually. So, alright, this is the SVG, and we've looked in this inside of SVGs in previous series. I don't think we've done it yet in this one, but basically looks like right here you can see the fill or the path, and we have the fill property and the stroke property. I think that's just what we're going to want to change. And what is I think we're just using the 212121 for the black. So let's just go ahead and just try and hard code this differently. Let's see if it changes properly or not. I have a feeling it might be a little bit more difficult. Inspect it. Yeah, so it won't. Let's see. I don't know if we will be able to change it like that. We might have to just use it as an image object. Okay, so anyways. And then, so yeah, let's get this centered out a little bit nicer. Pull this down ever so slightly. And so we have the Flexbox stuff on it, and we want to get it aligned up and down. So if we look and inspect it, you can see that it's sitting higher at the top, and we want to just get that a little bit more centered out. So on this span class, we should be able to, the span element, we should be able to add in some Flexbox classes just to get it centered. Let me just see what this is at. Inherited. Okay. So let's go Flexbox, and that'll set it to Flexbox, and then if we say, or no, if we say Flex Align Center, it should center it vertically. Looks like it already did it. So Flex Align Center, it applies this Align Items class of center to it. And let's just make sure that that actually did something. So let's just delete it out of there. And I don't think it did anything. What we want to do is not to do that. We want to
Listen, man.
what we need to sorry. Before we add this Flex Align Center class, we need to add in the Flexbox class so we know that it is Flexbox. And like that, now it's sitting down a little bit lower. And we can adjust the size now, maybe? I don't know, it actually looked alright before. Now that I came back and looked at it, I just want to look at it one more time with this out of there. Maybe instead of oh, so this width right here is setting it to 50. So if we change this back down to just 2 rems, oops, 2 rems instead of 2.5 rems, I want to see what that gives us. And then if we inspect it, let's put this class on here. see where it's sitting at. Oh. Okay, so the span is what we want to size actually. So I want this SVG. I want that to be 50 pixels, I think. I think I like that size. So that's a good size. But that's not what we want to change. We want to change the height of the, sorry, I'm just thinking when I'm pausing. Sorry about the pausing. So we want to change the height of the span. So dot filter panel, and it's gonna be icon SVG, but it's not SVG, it's outer. And that refers to this span right here, this thing right here. All right, with that targeted, we're about to be targeted just like that. Let's try and say height is 2.5 rem. Okay. Let's take a look at this now. All right, and if we take these classes off now, what does that look like? And all right, so it's a little bit better on the size, and I think it's the same size. What I want to do is I think I'm just going to use a little bit of margin to bump it down a little bit.
Nice, delicious coffee on the street, no branding, on purpose no branding,
Margin
because we didn't want any
top,
barriers. There was no
and we'll just say
windows,
0.5 rem.
the espresso machine, see what we were doing.
Oh, too much. Let's do 0.1 rem. So 2 pixels. 0.2 rem. And let's just do 0.25 rem. Alright, I think that is good enough for the fine tuning of it. Let's see. I'm just gonna play around just a little bit. Okay, there we go. That looks a little bit better, I think. I don't know. It's kind of getting... Wanted it closer to like where it was sitting for this line, but I think that's just being a little bit too picky. Okay, enough styling. All right, let's do this now. So we got all this good stuff on there, and we have our image. And I'm just gonna tab this out or scaffold it out just slightly so we can see it a little bit easier. We have our image in there, and so since this is an image element, I believe that just a click listener or an event listener on this tag element will work, but if this was an object, it wouldn't. So we can say click, and let's just get something basic set up just to get it working. We'll say reset filters, just like that. Let's go down here and write that function. So we'll open up the methods object in our Vue instance, and inside there we can write our function, and we called it reset filters. Alright. So in here we'll just console log, hey there. And if that works, we should get a hey there. Cool. All right, it works. Neat. So with the image tag, it does work, but when I was working with HTML image objects and just straight SVG, it was giving me, or actually it wasn't giving me anything. It wasn't doing anything. The click listener or click event handlers weren't doing anything. So if you ever have trouble with that, if you put it on the outside parent, if you can manage to wrap it in some sort of outer div, then do that, and it should alleviate that issue. And when we break this out to a component, we might be able to demonstrate that, but we'll see. All right, so we just want to reset the filters, and right now that is just going to run. Basically, all we need to do is just run an action on our store that will reset the filters to what they're set as right here. And so what I want to do, I think, is just we'll just copy this whole array. And okay, so we'll just copy this whole array, and I wonder if there's a better way to do this, but what we want to do is write an action and a mutation to do this. So we will say, let's start by writing an action, and then we'll say set, or it'll be reset filters store. And you don't have to do the store. That's not like required by any means. If you're new to Vuex and you're just checking this video out, first of all, thank you. Second of all, you don't need to do this store, this like muta modifier or anything like that. That's just a naming convention that I go for that helps me to kind of keep track of what's going on and which one it is, because I name them the same thing, but they're just, one's a mutation, one's an action. So yeah. All right, cool. So let's do this destructuring, continuing with our function reset filters store, and we want to just pull out the commit property, which is a function. Oh, yeah, and then we're just gonna have, we actually won't even have a payload, so we'll just do commit, just like that. And we can say commit, and we're gonna say commit the mutation reset filters, right? And we don't have that written yet. Prefix it or modify it, put that little thing on there. Reset filters, and then that should be all we need to do, because we don't have any payload that we're passing in for it. Oops, not a semicolon, but just a comma. So we don't need to have the secondary argument in there as our payload. Neat. Alright, so then we can just come up to our mutations and write our mutation for resetting the filters. So we'll see reset filters underscore muta, spell it right. And that is going to take our state as the first argument and the only argument. And since we will just say this, or I'm sorry, not this, but state dot filters equals, and it's just going to be this array again. And that should be all we need to do. And nice. Okay, cool. So let's go back to our filter panel and let's get that into our Vue instance. So to get access to these Vuex actions and mutations, we have to import them. So we'll use the MapActions helper that comes with Vuex, and we can just say MapActions from Vuex. And this is kind of like an example of destructuring in itself, because we're just pulling out this Vuex, or it's importing a whole object of stuff, and we only want the MapActions property on that object, this Vuex object, so we're just going to pull that out of it. So it's named imports are kind of like destructuring in a sense, in some ways, but it's not 100% the same thing. So anyways, okay, we have MapActions in there, and now in our methods we can map those actions to our methods objects. So we can just say we want to spread into our MapActions, and that's going to be a function that takes an array of strings, the names of our actions. So we'll say reset filters underscore store, just like that. Should be all we need to call that. And now instead of this console log where we say hey there, actually we don't even need this method right here. I think we can just call this on the event handler. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. So if we say reset filters underscore store, because it's just essentially the same thing as being on our Vue instance, like it were this. Reset filters store, and then if we had stuff that was like do stuff in here, this is essentially what this MapActions is doing behind the scenes. It's just putting that that method, or that Vuex function, action function, into our methods property, just like it were sitting like that. Cool. Alright, so I think that's all we need, and we should be able to just, if we made some changes on this and click this, it should go back to what we want it to be. Cool, just like that. And let's just confirm that this is working. We'll get an image in here. So if we have some goofing around that we're doing on everything, and we decide that we actually don't like everything, we can just click the reset button, and there we go, presto changeo. Neat. Okay, cool. So we have that finished. The next thing I want to do, let's see, where is this? This is red for some reason. Where is it telling us that it's red at? Missing a semicolon, just like that. Perfect. Alright, the last thing we're gonna do for this is get our double click reset individual filter method working. Alright, so before we do that, actually, now let's just go back. Okay, so in our filter input, let's just take a look at this real quick. And if we take a look, I want to see the spacing of this. So we want this input to have one more click listener on it. I don't know if that like takes a performance hit if you have multiple event handlers on one element. It probably does in some ways, but I'm sure it doesn't make that huge of a deal. So we want to listen for the double click event handler, and how we do that in Vue is just with the double click like that, with dbl click, and we will say reset filter, just like that, and then we can just probably prefix it just like that, and we need to pass in the filter, so we just want the index of it. And yeah, so the reason why we aren't just calling it straight away for the mouse move and change events is because we need to build this payload object. All right. Okay, sorry for the pause. I was just thinking about that for a second. All right, so we have this filter and it's got an index that we're using. Or wait, can we just pass in the index? Oh no, go away. All right, index, let's try that. Because we just need the index to target the individual thing. Just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, goodness. Okay, let's see, where were we at now? We gotta get... So the tricky thing about this is that some of them have the default... Oh, I see. So Josh was saying, Joshua was saying in the chat that we could set a default property on each of the filters. I think that's actually a really good idea, instead of just re-initializing the entire array. Because then what is getting to my next point that I just came to the conclusion of as well, is that it'll make our resetting the individual filter a lot easier, because we can just set it as the default instead of trying to like figure out which filter it is and then setting it either to 0 or 100 based on what filter it is. So that's cool, let's do that. So we can go into our store and actually get rid of this whole thing. Well, before we do that, let's come into our original filters array and we can just have a default property underneath the current. So default will be 100. It'll be the same as the resting current as well. So we can actually just probably duplicate it. Default current is 0. And this one should be default. What is going on? Oh, spaces. Okay, current, and change that one to default as well. Duplicate that, duplicate this one, and duplicate this one as well. And now we can change them all at the same time. And default, just like that. Neat. Okay, so now if we come back into this this filter, our reset filters, instead of all this stuff that we did. Delete the array, and we want to just say dot for each, and we will take each filter and we're gonna loop through them and set filter dot current equal to filter dot default, just like that. Okay, so that's just giving me red because we can just put parentheses around that, just like that, and add the semicolon, and that should be all that we need in this case. Alright, let's give this a try. And if we adjust some of our filters and all that stuff, when we click this button, it should bring it all back down to where we want it to be. Neat. Okay, cool. So with that corrected and optimized, thank you for that reminder of that, Joshua. And in here, we just want to do this double click really quick as well. So let's go in and let's just add that. Let's say set, or whoops, not set, but reset filter, and not filters, just filter. And now we should just be able to use that like that. And now if we come in here and write our action and our mutation, so we'll start with the action and we'll say reset filter. And that is going to, again, be the first argument that we take will be the commit. And that's really annoying with the flashing, so. So we're destructuring that out of the context object, and then we also are getting our payload that we pass in, and that is going to be the index that we get right here. Alright, and so now we can just say commit dot commit and then invoke it, and we will say reset filter muta. Oh, and we forgot the store thing on this one as well. Alright, just like that, and then the second argument we pass in is the payload, which is also the index. Alright, now with that finished, just like that, we can come in here and say reset. Well, so we're gonna write our mutation now, and say reset filter, and then muta, and we just get our state passed in, and also the payload. So I'm just gonna make a note so we know what the payload is for this mutation. Payload equals index. Alright, cool. And in the body of this, we are just going to say state dot filter filters, and we'll pass the index in. Oops. We actually, yeah, no, let's just say payload. In this case, dot current will equal state dot filters payload as the index selector dot default. All right, that should be all that we need to do in that instance now. So let's take a look and see if that works. All right, so if we are to bring this up to 147 and double click it, looks like it's not working. Let's see what we got here. Not read property 0 of undefined. $121, so it is getting, oh, filters. There we go. Let's try this again. Bring that up to 148, and if we were to double click it, neat. So if we don't wait long enough, it'll trigger and try and think that it's a thing. I don't know, that works, I guess. We could do a little like reset button to click, but I think it's kind of neat to double click it and just bring it back. Just like that. Cool. And let's take a look at our work log here. And so we got this finished. also got this finished. Neat. And I think, so we won't have time to get to the custom file name input. We'll have to put that in the next episode. But it's going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to set up a Vuex property, or we already have a Vuex property set up that we're just going to vmodel to it using this text input. Or wait, you know what? We already have that set up, I believe. Let me take a look here. Custom name. And custom name, is that working? Oh, it is. Okay. So, you know what? Let's finish that. Custom file name input. That will go up to here. Okay. So custom file name, we already have the logic for that set up, so we can just pass that in to our download function. And before we go any further, let's commit this. So git add all, and then we can say git commit -m update reset filters, reset filter function, and default property per t added to filters in Vuex. Alright, cool, just like that. We can say git push, and we have to say -u origin, and then the name of our branch, since this is a new branch. Push that to it, just like that. Cool. And what else? Okay, so we have that custom name in there, right? And we can say, let's close out this and close out our CSS stuff and go back into the download button component. And we need to, since we already have all this right here, what we can say instead of the filtered image name right here, passing it in. So this link down here, in the canvas.toBlob function, we're setting the attribute for the download, the name of the downloaded file, as the secondary argument that we pass in. So instead of passing in the filtered image, we can say what do we want to say? This dot image dot custom name. Custom image name. Alright, cool. Oh wait, you know what? We can't just pass it in like that. We have to pass it in as a template literal. Let's try it like this first. This turning it into a template literal because we want it to be a string. Whoops. Goodness, what is going on? Backtick and backtick. Alright. Alright, so if we type in something random and click download, it's not going to download anything because we don't have an image in there, but let's pull in our image and click download, and maybe not. Oh, it's taking a while because it's a taking a minute, taking a second. we don't need this template literal. Let's just pop the variable name in there because it's a string to begin with. Load handler took. Alright, let us try something else here. Going back into this folder, I want to get an optimized image. Alright, so if we go to this manage button inside of here, we can see, where is it? Metadata. Transformations, actually. Oh, so it's, where is it? I can't. It's been a while since I've done this. Go back. Transform. Okay, so here we go. So we have derived images we can look at. So these are the ones that we've already got worked with. So this one, this link right here, this little code or this little text snippet right here, basically is what gets injected into the CDN link for Cloudinary, and that's basically what allows it to dynamically optimize. It'll crop it to a certain height and width, and it'll optimize it and format it however you want to. You can do a ton of stuff with this Cloudinary service. So if you ever use any type of image assets or image video asset hosting stuff, go check them out and you'll be pleasantly surprised with the amazing power that it will give you over your stuff. So we're gonna take this and grab the link, and you can see that it right here, you can see that it pops in that text snippet into the actual link itself, and it's actually a different size image. So you can take that and pull it in here, and let's just give this a refresh for good measure. Paste it in, test, click download. Let's see what happens here. You can see that there is a different size. Not getting anything. Let me try put this back into template literal. This dot image dot custom image name. Try that. Refresh. Bring that in there. Test 2.1. And it's not giving us what we want. Of course not. Always happens every episode. We keep getting to this, and it's just like, nope, sorry, you can't have it. We're gonna make you goof up right at the end. Interesting. What if we just put something like hello, just a regular string? Does it work? And it's no longer downloading. It's saying that it's like doing all that stuff though. I don't know. Interesting. So finicky. I don't know what the deal is with this canvas stuff, but I probably won't be doing a canvas project after this without a library involved for quite a while. Click the download button and it's not working still. I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. Yeah, I feel I'm right there with you. Alright, well, you know, that's alright. Let's see, is there something we're missing? Image or source, custom name. Sources there, width and height are all there. Everything looks good to go. Delete these guys really quick, and I just want to see if this is reaching. Alright, so it is running all the way through it. Strange. Okay, well, that's all good. This is gonna be where I'm gonna wrap it up for the night. As you saw in the beginning half of the episode, we did have it downloading, but apparently this app is just not making anything easy on us, because every time we get to the end, something is breaking or something's not going right and it's not working 100%. But it does work, and I don't know, that's all good. The main things that we did tonight were, we basically got, well, we got this download image working, and now it's not working again, but that's fine. We got the correct image size being stored into our Vuex store, and we also got our reset filters stuff going on with, you can reset them all, and we can also do a double click. And of course, it works for Joshua on his end, so I must have missed something along the way, which wouldn't surprise me in the least. So maybe I just need to, I'm gonna try and start it one more time just to see what that does, and if it doesn't work, then we're still gonna call it for the evening. What is this? Okay, we got that. Let's give it a refresh, load our image in. We download this. Oh, you know why? Because it's saying our download is blocked right here. That's what's going on. Oh, see, watch, when I click this little download button, it's popping out. It's trying to prevent us. See, it's like, it's saying that it won't let us, doesn't want us to download multiple files and stuff. So I'm gonna override that. We're gonna bring this back to how it was, and then we're gonna call it a night. So this, let's just, okay, let's try it. This dot image dot custom image name. Paste that in, type in a bunch of random stuff, and it's saying to block it, always allow. Facepalm galore. Alright, and boom, just like that. Cool, it works. Neat. Alright, this is gonna be the end of this episode of live coding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. Again, thank you as always, Joshua, for hanging out with us in the chat. Thank you for everybody else who stopped by to say hi tonight and to hang out. If you liked this, make sure to give it a thumbs up and give me a comment on what you want to see in the next live coding series, or what you want to see in the next series of videos. We'd love to see it. Make sure to go check out the RabbitWerks Code with Beats playlist on Spotify if you like what you've been listening to as far as the beats tonight. And if you want to get on round 2 of the RabbitWerks JavaScript dev sticker giveaway, feel free to do that. All you need to do is head over to the Discord server and get in contact. So cool. Thank you again so much for checking things out and checking out and hanging out with us on another episode of live coding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. Hopefully soon I will be able to get a little bit of webcam action going so we can get a little bit more FaceTime on this stream, but we'll have to see what's going on. And yeah, good times. I'm glad we got that figured out with this little download thing, so it's working, and that's what counts. So I hope you learned a little bit tonight, and I hope it helps you in your next week of coding. So until next week, have a good night, have a good day, wherever you are in the world. Stay awesome.